Selamat datang di Mars. Hari ini, NASA akan mendaratkan penjelajah baru di Mars. Setelah menempuh perjalanan 7 bulan, penjelajah ini hanya butuh waktu 7 menit untuk mencapai permukaan Mars. Tepatnya, ia akan mendarat di Kawah Jezero Mars, sebuah kawah raksasa yang dulunya pernah memiliki banyak air. Nama penjelajah baru ini adalah Perseverance. Perseverance akan mencari tanda-tanda kehidupan kuno dan mengumpulkan sampel untuk dikirimkan kembali ke Bumi. Menariknya, penjelajah ini tidak sendirian di Mars, karena ia memiliki teman berupa helikopter mini bernama Eugenity. Eugenity akan menjadi warna terbang pertama yang terbang secara terkontrol di planet lain, dan tentu bisa membantu penjelajah Mars di masa mendatang. Hari ini, wahana Perseverance akan mendarat bersama Eugenity di rumah baru mereka, dan petualangan akan dimulai. Selamat datang di Mars. Hari ini, NASA akan mendaratkan penjelajah baru di Mars. Setelah menempuh perjalanan 7 bulan, penjelajah ini hanya butuh waktu 7 menit untuk mencapai permukaan Mars. Tepatnya, ia akan mendarat di Kawah Jezero Mars, sebuah kawah raksasa yang dulunya pernah memiliki banyak air. Nama penjelajah baru ini adalah Perseverance. Perseverance akan mencari tanda-tanda kehidupan kuno dan mengumpulkan sampel untuk dikirimkan kembali ke Bumi. Menariknya, penjelajah ini tidak sendirian di Mars, karena ia memiliki teman berupa helikopter mini bernama Eugenity. Eugenity akan menjadi warna terbang pertama yang terbang secara terkontrol di planet lain, dan tentu bisa membantu penjelajah Mars di masa mendatang. Hari ini, wahana Perseverance akan mendarat bersama Eugenity di rumah baru mereka, dan petualangan akan dimulai. Halo, halo semuanya, tes. Halo semuanya, tes 1 2 1 2 1 2 tes. Apakah suara saya sudah masuk? Kalau sudah masuk, kalian bisa komen terlebih dahulu. Suaranya gimana? Tes 1 2 3. Halo semuanya, bagaimana kabar kalian? Apakah suara saya sudah sambung? Halo. Kali ini kita juga sedang menunggu siaran langsung dari NASA ya. Jadi kita sambil menunggu, saya akan bahas tentang misi menarik dari si Perseverance ini. Saya atur terlebih dahulu ya, teman-teman ya. Oke, sudah banyak yang hadir. Thank you ya sudah hadir di live dini hari ini. Terima kasih atas antusiasnya menyambut rover terbaru NASA Perseverance yang akan sampai di Mars hari ini. Kita juga sedang menunggu siaran langsung dari NASA. Masih kurang 8 menit lagi teman-teman ya. Oke, sekarang saya akan membacakan tentang beberapa fakta menarik dan seputar misi penjelajahan dari Perseverance untuk menunggu live dari NASA. Nanti kita akan langsung link ke YouTube ini, jadi nanti kalian nggak usah repot-repot ke NASA. Jadi kalian langsung bisa pergi ke sini. Nah, oke, Pertama-tama saya ucapkan selamat dini hari semuanya. Bersama saya Junior Fikri Abdillah dan rekan saya Ardiansyah yang bakal menemani kalian semua dalam live kali ini sampai pendaratan Perseverance selesai. Jadi pertama-tama kita bakal kasih kalian informasi mengenai misi dan beberapa hal menarik mengenai Perseverance. Buat yang belum tahu, sebelumnya rover Perseverance ini sudah diluncurkan pada 30 Juli tahun 2020 kemarin. Nah, yang udah nonton peluncurannya pasti udah pada tahu nih. Dan dijadwalkan bakal mendarat di Mars pada 18 Februari 2021 atau di Indonesia ya hari ini. Jadi kali ini kalian bakal menyaksikan pendaratan wahana penjelajah Perseverance ya. Oke, lanjut. Nantinya Perseverance ini akan mendarat di lokasi bernama Kawah Jezero, yang mana merupakan kawah di Mars yang dulunya sebuah danau yang diyakini penuh dengan air dan tanda-tanda kehidupan pada masa lampau. Nah, menarik banget kan? Setelah sudah mendarat nanti, rover tersebut akan mencari tanda-tanda kehidupan mikroba kuno yang merupakan salah satu tujuan NASA untuk mengetahui kelayakan huni dari Mars pada masa lampau. Jadi tujuan untuk Perseverance ini lebih ke menyelidiki kehidupan pada zaman dulu ya di Mars ya, karena para peneliti dulu kan yakin bahwa di Mars sebelumnya pernah mempunyai kehidupan, walaupun tidak bisa bertahan lama. Tujuan Perseverance ini akan menguak misteri tersebut dan membuka jalan bagi seluruh misi penjelajahan selanjutnya. Nah, seputar Perseverance ini ada hal menariknya lagi ya, karena misi kali ini rover Perseverance juga memiliki bor atau dilengkapi bor untuk mengumpulkan sampel inti batuan dan tanah dari Mars. Nah, sampel itu akan disimpan dalam tabung tertutup dan akan dibawa kembali ke Bumi oleh misi ke Mars selanjutnya. Jadi bisa dibilang Perseverance ini memang mempersiapkan banyak sampel ya, yang kemudian akan dibawa oleh misi selanjutnya. Kemudian untuk durasi misi dari Perseverance ini kurang lebih akan berlangsung selama 1 tahun di Mars atau setara dengan sekitar 687 hari di Bumi. Kemudian kalau misi ini sudah selesai, seperti yang kita jelaskan tadi bahwa akan ada misi di masa mendatang untuk menjemput Perseverance dan sampel yang telah dikumpulkannya. Oke, udah paham semuanya kan tentang misinya? Karena Perseverance ini masih ada hal menariknya lagi. Karena Perseverance ini tidak cuma sendiri ya, karena juga ditemani oleh sebuah helikopter mini yang terbang mirip drone dan akan menjadi sejarah pertama ya, sebuah wahana terbang diluncurkan di luar bumi. Wahana terbang ini bernama Unity. Tentunya hal ini menarik ya, karena bisa kalian dengar sendiri tadi, helikopter mini ini menjadi yang pertama bisa terbang di planet lain. Jadi kalau ini nanti bisa berhasil terbang dan berjalan sesuai rencana, wah ini tentu akan menjadi kabar yang menggembirakan ya. Buat yang tanya untuk helikopter ini apa, jadi ini memang sekedar menjadi sebuah percobaan untuk menjajal ya penerbangan di atmosfer Mars yang memang tipis. Jadi nanti jika sukses, maka misi tersebut akan menuntun eksplorasi Mars bisa berkembang lebih jauh lagi. Jadi mungkin nanti NASA akan menerbangkan wahana antariksa ke planet lainnya atau ke wilayah tata surya kita. Jadi ini untuk sekedar uji coba juga, menerbangkan objek di sebuah planet selain Bumi. Pasti banyak yang tanya ya tentang helikopter ini, apakah bisa terbang di atmosfer Mars? Jadi untuk sedikit membahas tentang Unity nanti ini ya, wahana ini mempunyai berat 1,8 kg dan ditenagai oleh baterai lithium ion, sehingga nanti Unity ini dapat menyediakan energi terbang selama 90 detik per harinya. Lalu helikopter Unity ini mempunyai jarak terbang sampai 300 meter dan ketinggian mencapai 5 meter dengan lingkungan terbang di atmosfer tipis kurang dari 1% seperti halnya di Bumi. Jadi kesulitannya memang itu ya, tapi ini merupakan sebuah langkah besar ya bagi manusia. Kemudian untuk membahas detail misinya, Perseverance memiliki 4 objektif yang mendukung program eksplorasi Mars. Pertama adalah mengidentifikasi kemampuan lingkungan dalam mendukung kehidupan mikroba. Kedua, mencari kemungkinan tanda-tanda kehidupan mikroba di masa lampau, khususnya di beberapa batuan yang diduga menyimpan tanda-tanda kehidupan. Ketiga, untuk mengumpulkan dan menyimpan inti batuan dan sampel tanah dari permukaan Mars. Dan yang keempat atau terakhir, mengetes produksi oksigen dari atmosfer Mars. So, itu adalah beberapa detail misi dan hal menarik mengenai Perseverance dan Unity. Dalam live kali ini, kita akan menyaksikan secara langsung Perseverance yang akan mendarat di lokasi bernama Jezero, yang mana merupakan kawah yang dulunya diperkirakan sebuah danau yang diyakini penuh dengan air dan kemungkinan tanda-tanda kehidupan pada masa lampau. So, kita tinggal nungguin aja nih progres dari jalannya misi kali ini. Semoga pendaratan Perseverance dan Unity ceria dan dapat menjalankan misinya sesuai dengan apa yang sudah dipersiapkan. Untuk selanjutnya, kami akan kembalikan live ke NASA yang akan memandu jalannya pendaratan Perseverance, dan nanti kita bakal ketemu lagi untuk membahas jalannya misi kali ini. Oke, sebelum kita tinggal sebentar, saya ingin kalian absen terlebih dahulu. Yang hadir dari daerah mana aja nih? Dan apakah sudah pada nyiapin kopi? Karena kita akan begadang cukup lama. Untuk touchdown-nya atau mulai menyentuh permukaan Mars ini diperkirakan pukul 3 lebih ya, atau bahkan jam 4 kurang. Jadi masih ada jeda waktu yang cukup lama bagi kalian untuk menyaksikan live kali ini sebelum nantinya akan benar-benar touchdown atau menyentuh permukaan Mars. Buat yang belum bikin kopi, langsung aja bikin dulu supaya kuat melek ya. Nanti kita temenin bareng-bareng sama para admin dari NASA Angkasa. Sebisanya bakal saya pantau kalian semua. Kita pantau bareng-bareng agar informasi dari pendaratan Mars kali ini bisa kita saksikan secara langsung dan menjadi sejarah. Oke, kita akan lanjut untuk jeda terlebih dahulu. Penjelajah ini tidak sendirian di Mars karena ia memiliki teman berupa helikopter mini bernama Unity. Unity akan menjadi wahana terbang pertama yang terbang secara terkontrol di planet lain dan tentu bisa membantu penjelajah Mars di masa mendatang. Hari ini, wahana Perseverance akan mendarat bersama Unity di rumah baru mereka dan petualangan akan dimulai. Selamat datang di Mars.
team members are in different parts of this building. Some are in mission control, others are upstairs for landing operations. We also have isolated rooms for our guests on this show. In total, we have 8 locations covered by 14 robotic cameras that you will be seeing. One of those locations is the dark room, the heart of NASA's Deep Space Network. Think of it as a giant communication switchboard. This is where spacecraft phone home to us from across the solar system and interstellar space. The Deep Space Network has been tracking Perseverance since it left Earth, and there are lots of ways you can watch landing today. We have a 360-degree camera inside the control room. It lets you experience the landing right along with the team while seeing this broadcast. We also have the clean feed. It shows an uninterrupted view of mission control and audio. También tenemos un programa en español. To tell us about it is host Diana Trujillo, who also works on the mission.
Thank you, Raquel. We're so excited to be the sister live broadcast in Spanish. Sintonízate nuestro programa en las redes sociales de Twitter, YouTube y Facebook en la NASA en español para que nos acompañes a un tour virtual de la NASA con entrevistas con astronautas, con participación de artistas, con entrevistas con científicos e ingenieros de Perseverance, con Plaza Sésamo y mucho más. Te esperamos.
Gracias, Diana. And don't forget, we want to see how you are watching the landing today. Use the hashtag Countdown to Mars to send us your photos and videos. To preview what interviews are coming up is my co-host from the JPL News office, Marina Jurica.
Thanks so much, Raquel. The excitement is building behind me right here in Mission Control as we count down to the Perseverance landing. We will be talking to some of the many people who made today possible, from scientists to engineers on the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover team to folks from NASA headquarters giving us a look into the future of Mars exploration. A little later, we will also be speaking with the students who named the rover and the helicopter. Inspirational stories as we prepare for another landing on the red planet. Back to you, Raquel.
Thanks, Marina. Let's give a shout out to the students around the nation learning about Perseverance's mission to Mars with their teachers. We're happy you're with us on this exciting day. Later in the show, we will be answering some of the questions you submitted through your classrooms. Landing on Mars is complex. The team will be calling out milestones as they happen. It's fast-paced, and you'll hear lots of technical terms. To help us translate and explain what is going on in Mission Control is Swati Mohan. She is part of Perseverance's landing team. Thanks for guiding us through landing today, Swati.
Hi, Raquel. I'm happy to be here today.
So, Swati, what is the status of the Perseverance rover right now?
So Perseverance is still in space right now, about 9,000 miles from Mars. So far, she is healthy and on course.
And it takes time to send signals between Earth and Mars. Can you let us know how that affects the information you are seeing?
So Mars is about 127 million miles from Earth right now. That means it takes about 11 minutes from light to travel from Mars to Earth. So all the information that we receive from Perseverance actually happened 11 minutes ago. So the round trip is 22 minutes for us to send a command to Perseverance and hear back on the ground that she's received that command. This is what we call two-way light time.
That's good to know. And can you tell us who else is in the room with you right now?
The operations team is split into 2 different areas. Here in the cruise mission support area, we have primarily the team that has been flying Perseverance from Earth to Mars. You'll see the placards with the roles of each of the people by their stations. Some of the people you may hear talking today are the flight director, who is the conductor of our operations orchestra here, the entry, descent, and landing activity lead, who is a member of the landing team tasked with understanding the execution of entry, descent, and landing, and then also the telecommunications and entry, descent, and landing communications engineers who will be monitoring the signal from Perseverance through the different paths that we have. Upstairs, in what we call the war room, we have almost the entire entry, descent, and landing operations team. And then across the hall from them, we have the surface mission control room, where the surface operations team is ready and waiting to take over as soon as Perseverance's wheels touch the ground.
And you have been part of this mission for years now. Can you tell us what have you been working on?
I've been working on Perseverance for almost 8 years now as a guidance, navigation, and control engineer, working primarily on entry, descent, and landing. One of my big tasks was to help with terrain relative navigation. Perseverance will be the first mission to fly terrain relative navigation. So while she's descending on the parachute, she'll actually be looking at the ground with a camera, seeing where she is with respect to the Martian surface, and choosing a safe spot to land that she can get to. After so many years of working on the mission, it's an honor to be here today as the mission commentator.
We're happy to have you here. Thanks, Swati. We'll be checking back in with you in just a few minutes as Perseverance approaches its next milestone. But for now, let's learn more about the rover's mission once it lands on Mars.
You know, Mars is the closest place that we can reach with robotic exploration that we think had a really good chance of having ancient life.
The Perseverance rover will land at a location called Jezero Crater. Jezero Crater is a very interesting place. It's a crater that once held a lake.
There are a lot of craters on the surface of Mars that could have once hosted ancient lakes, but not every crater that we think had a lake actually preserves evidence that that lake was there.
It had an inflow channel and it had an outflow channel. That means it was filled. The crater was filled with water.
In Jezero, we have probably one of the most beautifully preserved delta deposits on Mars in that crater.
This is a wonderful place to live for microorganisms, and it is also a wonderful place for those microorganisms to be preserved so that we can find them now so many billions of years later.
There is no other place on Mars that has the unique combination of a lake setting, a beautifully preserved delta, and the diverse mineralogy that we have in Jezero Crater. So it's truly a special landing site.
The major goal of the Perseverance mission is to investigate astrobiology on Mars, and in particular, to address the question of whether life ever existed on Mars. The Perseverance rover starts with a design that's very similar to Curiosity. We've added to it a whole new set of science instruments, and these science instruments were purposefully selected to help us in the search for biosignatures.
We're going to be taking microphones with us. For the first time, we're going to have that human sense on another planet.
Perseverance carries with her a grand experiment in spacefaring technology, a helicopter, the name of which is now Ingenuity.
One of the major upgrades that Perseverance has from Curiosity is that it's able to self-drive for a distance of up to 200 meters per day. As the rover is driving, it's literally building the map of the road it's driving on Mars.
Scientists for years have told us that to really unlock the secrets of Mars, we have to bring samples from Mars back to Earth.
So what Mars 2020 is going to do is to drill samples, put them in small tubes. We're going to seal it in its own individual tube. We set them on the surface to provide a target for the second two missions, which hopefully will get in development in the next several years and could potentially get the samples back to Earth by 2031.
Perseverance is a very, very profound first step in both our understanding of our place in the universe and...
Jadi ini merupakan beberapa penjelasan misi Mars Perseverance yang sudah saya jelaskan tadi ya, jadi kurang lebih sama. Dan bisa kalian lihat sendiri, ini masih menayangkan live control room sebelum Perseverance landing di Mars ya. Jadi kita tunggu dulu sesi live comment kali ini. Untuk bahasanya memang kita namanya live ya, kita juga nggak bisa kasih subtitle. Jadi kita cukup tunggu saja, nanti bakal kita jelasin lagi tentang progres misinya. Untuk sekarang sesinya memang masih live comment di control room ya. Oke, kita kembalikan lagi ke NASA untuk selanjutnya. So, mohon maaf, masih ada sedikit gangguan di live NASA. Kita sedang berusaha memulihkannya ya. Jadi kita jeda terlebih dahulu. Sebentar lagi bakal kita atur lagi ya. Masih ada sedikit jeda. Oke, sudah tampil lagi. Kita akan tampilkan live control room ya. Oke, kami infokan bahwa Perseverance sudah mulai mendekati ya. Sudah lebih dekat ke Mars karena jarak terakhir tadi waktu saya update di jam 8 atau setengah 8 tadi, wahana Mars berjarak kurang lebih sekitar 80.000 km ya. Dan kalau kita cek live sekarang, sudah mulai makin mendekat. Jadi ini menjadi, mungkin bisa lebih cepat, bisa lebih lambat ya. Tergantung memang kontrol dari NASA.
The other element that I want to talk about is the amazing technologies that are there. And of course, one of my favorites is the Ingenuity helicopter, this in search of this extraterrestrial Wright brothers moment, you know, controlled flight for the first time elsewhere, Raquel.
Great. And we have a student question on video for you from Macy.
Hi, my name is Macy Ragsdale. My question is anything alive on Mars? Thank you.
Well, Macy, I'm so glad for your question. That's a question I ask myself. Is anything alive there? And frankly, at the surface where we're going right now with Perseverance, we do not believe there's anything alive right there because of the radiation that's there. It's chilling, cold, and there's really no water there. But guess what? We think that 3 billion years ago, this looked like a stream that you may see on Earth. And frankly, a lot more similar than Earth, with water with a magnetic field, just like the Earth with an atmosphere. And the question is, at that time, 3 billion years ago, were there single-cell organisms, just of the type that developed on Earth? So is there life on Mars overall? We don't know, but where we're going right now, we're really looking for ancient life, and that's what we're so excited about.
Thank you for your time today, Thomas. And thanks to everyone who has been using the hashtag Countdown to Mars. Here are some of the photos that you've sent in so far. Let's take a look. Now, please keep sharing with us how you are watching this moment today. For now, let's go back to Swati for an important update to what's going on in mission control as we get closer to another milestone.
Hi, Raquel. This next milestone is a communications poll. So during landing, not only will Perseverance talk directly to Earth, but we'll also be talking to 2 spacecraft that are currently orbiting Mars, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and the MAVEN spacecraft. This poll is to confirm with the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter spacecraft and the MAVEN spacecraft teams that they are ready and on track to support the relay from Perseverance. Let's listen in.
EDL comm flight.
Go flight.
Have you performed the comm check and readiness of the orbiters?
We have performed the voice check and the readiness poll and can confirm that MRO, MAVEN, EDA, Radio Science 1 and 2, UHF, DTE, DSN, and EDL GDS are all ready to support.
Copy, EDL comm.
So we've just heard that we have confirmation from each of the different orbiters and all of their support equipment on the ground that they are ready and are on track to support the relay from Perseverance.
Great, thank you, Swati. And we just heard that communications readiness poll, which means we are ready to relay the data Perseverance will send to get a better idea of what the rover looks like as it approaches Mars. We have a NASA program called EYES. The visualization lets anyone watching track Perseverance. Here's how the program works.
Follow Perseverance on its journey to the surface of the red planet with eyes on the solar system. From your desktop or mobile device, go to eyes.nasa.gov. Click on the banner, and now you're with Perseverance in real time through every step of EDL, entry, descent, and landing. This interactive experience lets you ride along from whatever perspective you choose. Click and drag, scroll in, scroll out. Check out the descriptions and explanations to increase your EDL expertise. Experience every entry, descent, and landing event precisely designed and executed to land Perseverance safely on Mars. The EYES experience is based on predictive data, but during this broadcast you'll see a different visualization called Ranger, and it's based on the real communication the team in Mission Control receives from Perseverance in near real time. This is the visualization the team will follow as data fills their screens while monitoring the health of Perseverance on its nerve-wracking course to another successful Mars landing. Enjoy the ride.
You are watching live Mars landing commentary. Stepping outside Mission Control to talk to us is Perseverance system engineer, Matt Smith. Thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Hey, Raquel.
Well, coming from Mission Control, we are going to hear terms related to landing. Can you help us understand what some of them mean?
Sure, definitely. One thing you'll hear a lot about is telemetry. So telemetry is just our way of talking about data that's coming from the spacecraft and telling us important things like temperatures on the vehicle, pressure, how much fuel we have left, and other things that we need to understand for the health and safety of the vehicle. You'll also hear the word nominal, hopefully. Nominal means everything is expected, everything is okay, we're good to go. You'll hear also a lot about velocity and deceleration. So velocity is just our speed combined with the direction we're going.
Oke semuanya, buat kalian yang mau melihat kontrol live secara langsung bisa melalui smartphone, ya. Jadi kalian bisa langsung ketik s.nasa.gov. Nanti ditulis di pin komentar ya. Jadi kalian bisa lihat kontrol langsung bagaimana perjalanan Perseverance yang mulai sedikit mendekati permukaan Mars. Sekali lagi, untuk websitenya s.nasa.gov. Bakal saya pin komentarnya ya, dan kalian bisa langsung kunjungi situsnya biar bisa langsung lihat live control dari Perseverance.
That means we've touched down on the surface of Mars within the expected range of safe landing speeds.
Thanks for that breakdown. Now, this is your first Mars mission. What have you learned from this experience?
Yeah, one of my takeaways is that you can almost never be too careful when it comes to Mars. You definitely can't take Mars for granted. You know, we've checked and double-checked and triple-checked everything on our way to Mars. And, you know, even though we've done this once before using the sky crane technique on the Curiosity rover, you know, I think everyone's going to have everyone's going to hold their breath until we're on the surface of Mars this time around.
And we have a social media question coming in. Nor the Door on Instagram asks, how complicated is the automated landing sequence and who wrote the code?
Yeah, it's quite complicated. The automated landing software needs to do literally hundreds of things all on its own, just right with sub-second timing accuracy. And it's the result of many hundreds of people over many years, stretching all the way back to Curiosity, and then improved for the Perseverance landing today at Jezero Crater.
Great. Thanks for your time today, Matt, and good luck.
Thanks.
Now, landing on Mars is hard. Landing on Mars during a pandemic is even harder. The team behind the Perseverance rover faced one of its biggest challenges when the coronavirus pandemic struck. Here's how they kept the mission going.
When the pandemic struck, the future was certainly unknown. It was like walking into a blind, dark alley. You didn't know what was there, what was in front of you, what you were going to have to deal with.
It's something that nobody expected. It's something that nobody could plan for.
So we all were asked to start working from home.
Rather than your first priority being mission success and getting to the launch pad, your first priority immediately gets displaced, and it's now the safety of the people.
And it took a lot of work to put stuff together in order to keep momentum going, to keep people working safely, keep them healthy, and to keep the project on schedule.
We called the effort Mars 2020 Safe at Work, and the objective was to keep the team as safe or safer than they would be if they were not working. You know, putting a spacecraft together that's going to Mars and not making a mistake, it's hard no matter what. Trying to do it during the middle of a pandemic, it's a lot harder.
And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the Red Planet.
Certainly never done something like this before. Try to lead a team that's flying a spacecraft on the way to Mars while getting ready for landing, while doing it all from home.
There's no doubt that working in isolation, not virtual isolation, but in physical isolation from everyone else, is a challenge.
We had to rethink and redesign what it meant to operate a spacecraft in flight when we couldn't all be in the same room in mission control, seeing the data come down from Perseverance.
It was a major change going to that, you know, looking at everyone on a screen instead of in person.
Because of the pandemic, you can't just pop over your cubicle wall and talk to the person next to you.
It's definitely been a challenge to figure out how to communicate and get everything done remotely, but we've managed to make it work.
We are explorers. Our job is to go into the unknown, and this is just another example of the unknown.
We're really doing something that's transformative and trying to understand whether or not life evolved on another planet. That's the fundamental objective of this mission.
We're all still connected by this incredible mission and this wonderful team that we have the opportunity to be a part of. So that keeps at least me going.
Pretty much everybody that I've talked to that's associated with the mission has said the same thing, which is you could not have come up with a better name than Perseverance.
It's an amazing serendipity that we get to persevere through working on Perseverance.
Joining us now is Perseverance Deputy Project Manager Matt Wallace. Matt, just how ambitious is this mission, and how does this team stay on track with unexpected challenges like the pandemic?
Well, it's a very ambitious mission. You know, we're carrying not only a host of new, extremely capable science instruments to do that science mission that we've talked about, but also a number of technology experiments that provide feed-forward information into the next set of robotic explorers or even human exploration of Mars. So there's a lot for us to do. We look a lot like Curiosity, but in fact we're carrying 50% more payload down to the surface of Mars, and so it's been a big challenge. You know, and it was particularly challenging when the pandemic struck. It came at a critical time in our processing. We were just months away from launching. We're trying to essentially get the spacecraft assembled, do the final tests. Did not have a lot of margin in our schedule. And our focus just entirely shifted from that to keeping the team safe and keeping their families safe. And we had to do that quickly, to make the adjustment quickly. I think, we got through it with a lot of help. A lot of people stepped up to make it happen. The team was tenacious, and we managed to get it launched and fly it to Mars. Thanks to a lot of help.
And Matt, just how large is the team that worked on Perseverance?
It's a big team. A couple thousand people here just at JPL, in fact, have worked on the mission. And then almost every other NASA center has contributed in some significant and critical way as well. We have over 1,000 industry partners that have provided hardware into this mission from 44 different states, 60 different cities, and of course we have international contributions from Europe and many other international providers as well. So it's a big team. It's taken a lot of people to get us to where we're at.
That is a big team. This is the most difficult landing site ever attempted. Now, why do you think Perseverance is ready to land in Jezero crater now?
Jezero is tough. I mean, it's scientifically fascinating because it's got a lot of things like craters and, rock fields and cliffs and sand dunes and that sort of thing, which are great for the science community. That's exactly the type of features they're looking for to learn more about Mars. But they're all landing hazards for us. And so we've had to add new technology to relative navigation, which is the ability essentially to divert away from hazards. But we have taken this system through the same types of paces that we have in previous missions. We've used the same techniques, the same best practices for engineering verification, and in many cases we've used the same people. This, in fact, is my fifth Mars rover mission, and I'm not alone. There's other people in the project in the same situation. So, the team has given it everything they've gotten to put it all out there and to make this successful, and I think we're ready.
Thanks, Matt, and good luck on your fifth mission.
Thank you very much.
Well, Jezero crater is a location on Mars that has intrigued scientists for years. Let's head over to Marina to learn more about the science goals of the mission.
That's right, Raquel. Here to explain why we want to go there is Deputy Project Scientist Katie Stack Morgan. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks, Marina. Glad to be here.
Now, Perseverance is landing on Mars at the Jezero crater. Why is it that you and the team chose this particular area?
Yeah, so scientists believe the Jezero crater is one of the best places on Mars and possibly the entire solar system to look for signs of ancient life. Jezero contained an ancient lake and has within it one of the best preserved ancient delta deposits on the surface of Mars. And deltas form when a river enters a relatively open body of water, like an impact crater, and deposits the sediment that it's carrying into the lake. And we know based on studies of deltas and lakes here on Earth that they're great places to concentrate and preserve organics and support microbial life. We're also excited because Jezero exposes rocks that are between 3.5 to more than 4 billion years old and represent a variety of different geological processes.
Now, this might be a tough choice, but what do you think would be the most rewarding scientific discovery that we expect to get from this mission?
Yes, hands down, I think the most rewarding discovery I think we can make with Perseverance would be finding a truly compelling ancient biosignature on Mars. The rocks in and around Jezero crater record a period of time when life first arose in the solar system, and we have the opportunity with Perseverance to study the evolution of the planet from a once habitable world likely capable of supporting ancient life to the cold, barren planet we know Mars is today.
And why do you think, Katie, it's so important to find out if there really is or was ancient life on Mars?
Well, the question of whether there's life beyond Earth is one of the most fundamental and essential questions we can ask. And our ability to ask this question and develop the scientific investigations and technologies to answer it is one of the things that make us as a species so unique. And based on everything we know about Mars in the past, it absolutely should have been capable of supporting ancient life. So we can find out an answer to the question, where there were habitable environments, was there life? And studying the possible emergence of life on ancient Mars.
Selamat datang di Mars. Hari ini, NASA akan mendaratkan penjelajah baru di Mars. Setelah menempuh perjalanan 7 bulan, penjelajah ini hanya butuh waktu 7 menit untuk mencapai permukaan Mars. Tepatnya, ia akan mendarat di Kawah Jezero Mars, sebuah kawah raksasa yang dulunya pernah memiliki banyak air. Nama penjelajah baru ini adalah Perseverance. Perseverance akan mencari tanda-tanda kehidupan kuno dan mengumpulkan sampel untuk dikirimkan kembali ke bumi. Menariknya, penjelajah ini tidak sendirian di Mars, karena ia memiliki teman berupa helikopter mini bernama Eugenity. Eugenity akan menjadi warna terbang pertama yang terbang secara terkontrol di planet lain, dan tentu bisa membantu penjelajah Mars di masa mendatang. Hari ini, wahana Perseverance akan mendarat bersama Eugenity di rumah baru mereka, dan petualangan akan dimulai. Selamat datang di Mars. Hari ini, NASA akan mendaratkan...
has reconfigured its software to perform a type of relay called bent pipe. This will provide us with near real-time telemetry during entry, descent, and landing. We have coverage from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter from just before entry to a few minutes after landing. The telemetry we receive will be delayed by the time it takes light to travel from Mars to us back on Earth. Additionally, the Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution spacecraft, or MAVEN, is recording these UHF signals and will be relaying that recording hours after landing. MAVEN will be covering us from around the time of cruise stage separation until a few minutes after landing. We also receive what we call heartbeat tones, which are indications that the spacecraft is alive and progressing throughout entry, descent, and landing. It's important to note that while unexpected, we could lose our communication links and still land safely. Because Perseverance is doing entry, descent, and landing completely autonomously, she doesn't need our help to joystick the landing. The communication links give us added visibility.
And you can see Chloe hard at work inside Mission Control right now. Perseverance's landing might look like the system the Curiosity rover used back in 2012, but landing on Mars is difficult. There's always a risk involved. Here's what needs to happen for Perseverance to touch down safely in Jezero Crater.
Nothing can be taken for granted when you get to Mars. There's a lot of things we just don't know.
Space always has a way of throwing us curveballs and surprising us.
I mean, until we get the data that says we're on the ground safely, I'm going to be worried that we're not going to make it.
Entry, descent, and landing is often referred to as the 7 minutes of terror because it takes about 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere of Mars to the ground safely.
The spacecraft has to do all of this by itself.
There are many things that have to go right to get Perseverance onto the ground safely.
There's a lot counting on this. This is the first leg of our sample return relay race. There's a lot of work on the line.
Starting about 10 minutes before atmospheric entry, we get rid of really the spacecraft part of the rover that's been supporting us.
We come screaming in to the Martian atmosphere at 12 to 13,000 miles per hour.
And the heat shield is what dissipates all that initial energy through friction.
The vehicle will continue actually flying itself through the atmosphere. It's sort of like a transforming vehicle that went from a spacecraft and now it's kind of like an aircraft actively guiding itself.
When we're going slow enough, we deploy a parachute.
It's the biggest supersonic parachute we've ever sent to another planet. It's critical for slowing down the vehicle.
Perseverance's entry, descent, and landing borrows heavily from that of Curiosity.
But fundamentally, Perseverance is a different rover. She's bigger, she has different instruments.
We've added a lot of smarts on the inside to make it more capable so that it can deal with the landing site that we've given.
The science team identified Jezero crater as basically an ancient lake bed and one of the most promising places to look for evidence of ancient microbial life and to collect samples for future return to Earth. The problem is it's a much more hazardous place to land.
When you look at Jezero, all you see is danger. How do we go to a site that we never thought was safe enough to go to before? So the heat shield, which has protected us all the way through entry, is no longer necessary. We need to get that off so that we can actually see the ground. And we can see the ground in a couple different ways.
Perseverance will be the first mission to use terrain relative navigation. So while it's descending on the parachute, it will actually be taking images of the surface of Mars and determining where to go based on what it sees. This is finally like landing with your eyes open. Having this new technology really allows Perseverance to land in much more challenging terrain than Curiosity or any previous Mars mission could. Amongst the rocks and the craters and the cliffs, these things are hazardous to the rover, but these are the things that are interesting to the scientists.
Once Perseverance has figured out where she is, we jettison the back shell and parachute and light up our rockets. Those rockets help us steer to a safe landing spot that's nearby.
That descent stage takes us all the way down to about 20 meters off the ground.
That's when we start the sky cannon. Once the rover has hit the ground, the descent stage will cut loose from the rover and fly away to a safe distance. Surviving that 7 minutes is really just the beginning for Perseverance. Its job, right, being the first leg of sample return, to go look for those signs of past life on Mars. All that can't start until we get Perseverance safely to the ground. And then that's when the real mission begins.
With us now is Al Chen. He is Perseverance's entry, descent, and landing lead. Al, you were part of the Curiosity rover landing. Does it get any easier the second time around?
It absolutely does not, especially when considering we're trying to land the biggest, heaviest, and most complex rover we've ever built at the most dangerous landing site we've ever attempted. Jezero may look great and promising from a science perspective, but it's absolutely treacherous for landing. There's a cliff wall that's about 200 feet tall that runs right through the middle of the landing site. There are craters full of sand that even if we landed in them, we would not be able to drive out of. And there are rocks to the east and actually all over the place, rock fields. That would be a bad day for us if we were to land on them.
Now, Al, what new technology makes this type of dangerous landing possible?
Perseverance is carrying two new technologies that are really kind of under the hood smarts that are allowing us to land at this treacherous landing site. The first is range trigger. That's the ability, we've given Perseverance the ability to decide for herself, based on where she is, when to deploy the parachute. Previously, we used to deploy parachutes, that supersonic parachute, based just on navigated velocity. But now Perseverance has the smarts to figure out where she is and deploy that parachute at just the right place to make sure that we shrink where we could come down. That actually reduces the area, that error ellipse, where we can come down on the ground, from something that was on the order of 15 miles long by 12 miles wide for Curiosity to about 5 miles long by 4 miles wide for Perseverance. So that's quite a bit of reduction. Second, the next piece of technology that's helping us land there is terrain relative navigation. In the past, after we've popped off the heat shield, we've taken pictures of the ground as it's been coming up, but we haven't really done anything with them. This time, Perseverance is carrying a camera to take pictures, but also a kind of second brain to help it figure out what those pictures are telling it and match it up with an onboard map from a satellite. That allows it to figure out exactly where she is. Suddenly then, she can then fly to safe spots that are nearby once she really knows where she is. It allows the site to not have to be as flat and boring as a pancake as some of our past sites have been, the entire area we could come down. Now we just need little pieces of that site to be small enough and safe enough for us to land in safely and fly there after we've gotten rid of the parachute.
And we also have a social media question coming in. Sansakari14 on Instagram is asking, how does the sky crane decide where to move itself after the payload lands?
After the payload lands, after the rover touches down, the sky crane, the descent stage, which is that rocket-powered jetpack above it, the first job, of course, is to make sure you don't hurt the rover. So it'll turn forward or backward so that the engine plumes don't pass over the rover. So it'll come up and start to turn. And it'll go in whichever direction is closest to north. So it can either go forward, if that's the way north is, or go toward the rear of the rover, if that's where north is. And it'll fly about a third of a mile or so away.
Thanks for talking to us today, Al.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's head back to Mission Control for an update from Swati.
Hi, Raquel. So remember that command that we sent at around 11:35 to turn the transmitter off? We are just about to get confirmation that Perseverance has received the command. The command took 11 minutes to go to Perseverance, and then the reply took 11 minutes to get back from Perseverance to the ground. So we should hear any second now that we have officially turned off the transmitter. And after that, we will be about 4 minutes from the start of entry, descent, and landing mode. At this point, we will transition from the cruise approach mode to entry, descent, and landing. And that means our travel from Earth to Mars is done, and now we just need to get to the surface. So far, things are looking good.
Great.
Well, this is CAD 3, ready to show estimated miss distance for OD 152.
Copy EDL phase, we'll come back.
Flight Ace.
Go Ace. Our tracking stations have all confirmed the results of the transmitter drive off and in lock one way. Copy Ace. GDS flight. Flight GDS. At this time, I'd like to disable the alarms before EDL main. So please disable all the alarm files and start a new downlink session. Copy that. EGP. Copy that. Proceeding now.
Confirmation that we are now officially one way and the transmitter is off.
Rover mission has helped shape the other, starting with the landing of the Pathfinder more than 20 years ago, leading up to where we are today with Perseverance. Perseverance Deputy Project Manager Jennifer Trosper has worked on every Mars rover mission, and she joins us now. Jennifer, how does Perseverance fit into the history of exploring Mars?
Thanks, Raquel. It's great to be here. Well, Perseverance is NASA's 5th rover on Mars, and I've had the privilege of working on every one of them. And the very first rover was the Sojourner rover we sent in 1997, and it was the size of a microwave oven. And even at that small size, Sojourner was able to transform the way that we explore Mars, from stationary landers to small roving robots that go from place to place, just like a geologist would on Earth. So once we had that roving capability, then we sent our twin rovers Spirit and Opportunity. Spirit and Opportunity were tasked with finding evidence of ancient water on Mars. Now they did. They're great explorers, and both of them found ample evidence that water had once existed on the surface of Mars. But we had a question. Another question then was, Mars ever habitable if water had been there? And that's when we sent Curiosity. Now, Curiosity was a major upgrade to our rover fleet. She's the size of a small car. She landed with the Sky Crane system instead of airbags. And she also carries along her own sample analytics lab, and she's still operating today. And during her exploration, she has found evidence of a habitable environment in an ancient lake bed on Mars. So now we're sending Perseverance. Perseverance is tasked with answering the question and looking for evidence of ancient microbial life on Mars. And in order to do this, she has to be the smartest and most capable rover we've ever sent.
Speaking of Perseverance, can you tell us more about how Perseverance is smarter than its predecessors?
Yes, we've made a lot of upgrades to help her along with the surface mission. One of them is for her autonomous traverse capability. When I say autonomous traverse, I mean we tell her where we want her to end up, and she has to figure out the safe and best way to get there. In order to do that, she uses her cameras, algorithms, a computer. So we've given her another computer, we've upgraded the cameras, and we've upgraded the algorithms. Now she drives 3 times as fast as Curiosity could drive in this autonomous traverse mode. In fact, her average daily distance for driving, about 200 meters, is close to the maximum distance any rover has ever driven in a day on Mars. So she's fast. Another thing that we've done, which is the most significant upgrade that we've made, is the sample caching system itself. Curiosity has a robotic arm, like Perseverance has a robotic arm, but on the end of Perseverance's robotic arm is a coring drill that will go and take rock cores, transfer them into sample tubes and into the rover, where another robotic arm will take those tubes, will seal them and store them, and eventually drop them on the surface of Mars for future return to Earth.
Great. And we also have a social media question about Perseverance. Erica AS on Instagram wants to know what the wheels of the rover are made out of.
Great question. Well, you may think we make them out of some material you've never heard of. It turns out they're made of aluminum. Now, Perseverance's wheels are a little thicker than Curiosity's, but they're actually both made out of aluminum.
And one more question for you. Can you tell us more about the importance of where you are right now in the building?
Yes, I am above, on the second floor, above the cruise mission support area that you've been watching. And this is the surface mission support area. So as soon as Perseverance lands, all commands, this room will take over.
Selamat datang di Mars. Hari ini, NASA akan mendaratkan penjelajah baru di Mars. Setelah menempuh perjalanan 7 bulan, penjelajah ini hanya butuh waktu 7 menit untuk mencapai permukaan Mars. Tepatnya, ia akan mendarat di Kawah Jezero Mars, sebuah kawah raksasa yang dulunya pernah memiliki banyak air. Nama penjelajah baru ini adalah Perseverance. Perseverance akan mencari tanda-tanda kehidupan kuno dan mengumpulkan sampel untuk dikirimkan kembali ke Bumi. Menariknya, penjelajah ini tidak sendirian di Mars, karena ia memiliki teman berupa helikopter mini bernama Eugenity. Eugenity akan menjadi warna terbang pertama yang terbang secara terkontrol di planet lain, dan tentu bisa membantu penjelajah Mars di masa mendatang. Hari ini, wahana Perseverance akan mendarat bersama Eugenity di rumah baru mereka, dan petualangan akan dimulai.
Climate around Perseverance. So that's a quick tour of the rover, but I got to get back to work. So back to you.
Perseverance is collecting samples of Martian rock for future return to Earth. We've heard that scientists have been wanting to bring Martian samples back for many generations. And here to talk a little bit about that is NASA's Planetary Science Division Director, Lori Glaze, who joins us now to talk about the role Perseverance will play in NASA's future goals. Welcome, Lori.
Hi.
Now, as you just heard, we've heard that scientists have been wanting to bring back these Martian samples for a very long time. Why do we need to bring them back?
That's really a great question. You know, we actually have examples of Mars already here on Earth that came here as meteorites. but we don't know exactly where they came from on Mars, and then they also have had to make the trip from Mars to Earth, and so they got altered during that time, and then during their entry and descent into the Earth's atmosphere, that also changes what those rocks are like. So being able to go to Mars and actually collect a sample where we know exactly where it came from, and we know we can preserve it and keep it pristine and carry it all the way back here, this will be incredibly important to help us answer questions about the geologic history of Mars, understanding how it formed and evolved, and also really important questions about whether or not life actually existed on Mars 3.5 billion years ago, and whether that life, if it existed, has been preserved in the surface of Mars.
Now, Lori, these sample tubes that Perseverance is going to be collecting, they're the cleanest things ever created on Earth. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my goodness. We worked so hard. The team here at JPL is absolutely incredible to assure that those sample tubes are incredibly clean. One of the main goals of this mission is to be able to detect if there's actual life that's preserved, ancient life preserved in those rocks, in those samples. And we definitely don't want to be carrying, our own DNA off to Mars and then bring it back here to confuse our scientists when they're trying to study those samples. So it is an incredibly clean set of equipment that's been sent there. As you said, the cleanest thing we've ever sent into space.
Now, this is a very complicated campaign. Can you break down for us how it's going to work, and if there's any international partners working with us?
You are correct. The Mars sample return campaign is incredibly complex. In fact, it's probably the most challenging thing we've ever tried to do. But we're definitely not going to try and do it alone. We have great partners with the European Space Agency. And the way this campaign is going to work, well, Perseverance is the first step. Chapter 1 is going to Mars and collecting the samples. Chapter 2 is going to be a sample return lander that we hope to launch in around 2026 to 2028. And that lander, it'll be an American lander carrying a fetch rover that's provided by European Space Agency. And that little fetch rover will drive out and pick up the samples that Perseverance left on the surface of Mars. And the fetch rover will bring them back and load them into a rocket that we call the Mars Ascent Vehicle, which will be the first ever launch from another planet. And it will launch those samples into orbit around Mars. In the meantime, the European Space Agency will have an orbiter that's in orbit around Mars that can rendezvous and capture those samples and then bring them back to Earth for us to study back here in our amazing laboratories.
A lot of firsts, it sounds like, Lori. And another first, how is Perseverance and the Mars Sample Return mission going to help the future exploration, human exploration of Mars?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think we're going to get a lot of great information from Mars Sample Return with, again, being able to land the heaviest payload we've ever landed on Mars will be that Sample Return lander. That's critical to us learning how to land humans on Mars. And then we are definitely going to want to be able to launch the humans back off of Mars. So that Mars Ascent Vehicle is going to be critical, that first step of the first launch from another planet.
So exciting, Lori. And speaking about the Mars generation, we're now going to take a student question for you from Livia.
Hi, my name is Livia, and my question is, what made you want to study Mars, and why are you working so hard and willing to wait so long for a sample? Thank you.
Oh, Olivia, that is such a great question. And I enjoy Mars just because it can tell us so much about how our solar system formed and evolved. All of the planets can tell us different parts of that story, and Mars is a really key piece of that. And one of the main reasons we're willing to wait so long to get the sample back is that we've got great new scientists that are all about your age, and in about 10 or 15 or 20 years, you'll be the generation that's going to actually get to work with these samples. When they come back, you'll be the scientists and engineers that will be the next generation to change how we think about Mars and how we think about life in the solar system.
That was a great question, Lori. Reach for the stars, future little scientists and engineers. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Lori.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Back to you, Raquel, for another mission update.
Thanks, Marina. The cruise team for Perseverance controls the rover on its way to Mars. And moments ago, they handed it over to the landing team, and it looks like team leaders in Mission Control are about to talk to both teams. So let's listen in.
The CBM change, as I mentioned previously, is to the EDL reserve two-way non-coherent row.
Activity.
Copy flight.
EDL phase, go ahead.
Like the pep talk, I guess, to the team. All right. I'm terrible at pep talks. I think my reputation precedes me there. And look, I know this hasn't been easy, right? I'm not even sure we've even been all in the same room at the same time. I mean, I'm staring at folks across the internet as well. Even now, right? Only. Yeah. Voice check. Okay. I do want to just extend my heartfelt appreciation from the EDL team to the launch cruise team. You've done everything we've asked for, right? I mean, you've battled anomalies, you've dealt with Cephis, you've done everything. You delivered a healthy spacecraft to the place that we want to go. And she's right on target, right? You did the last maneuver literally 2 months ago, right? This is pretty incredible, in my opinion. And she's armed with the right information to help us land. Doing the parameter update last night, we're ready to roll. You've done everything right. And you've put up with us too, right? You've put up with our eccentricity.
Oke, halo semuanya, berjumpa bersama saya. Untuk info terbarunya, kita masih belum dapat data pastinya, tapi untuk sekarang kita masih menyaksikan bagaimana keadaan control room misi Perseverance ini. Saya juga masih mengumpulkan banyak data untuk update, jadi sekarang saya cek lagi. Oke, kita cek terlebih dahulu. Untuk siaran ini memang langsung dari NASA ya. Jadi ini bagian mission control. Kita juga belum dapatkan update sama sekali. Saya masih berusaha mengumpulkan banyak data ya. Karena ini cukup penting untuk pembahasan nanti siang. Estimasi touchdown untuk dari NASA sekitar jam 4 kurang 10 menit. Bisa lebih lama, bisa lebih lambat. Tergantung bagaimana keadaan si Perseverance sendiri ya. Untuk estimasi yang diberikan NASA tadi sekitar jam 3.55. Jadi jam 4 kurang 5 menit diperkirakan Perseverance sudah touchdown di permukaan Mars. Tapi kita masih berusaha mendapatkan data yang valid. Saya masih berusaha mengumpulkan banyak data untuk bisa diberikan update kepada kalian semua. Jadi tetap pantau aja dulu. Sembari bentar. Saya cari update terlebih dahulu. Jadi ini kayaknya ini udah detik-detik dari detik menuju touchdown ya. Kita cari terlebih dahulu. Kita dengarkan dengan seksama dulu ya.
That row reinforces our CBM windows disabled, keeps our packetization on.
Kita tunggu apakah ini sudah landing. Saya juga masih berusaha mendengarkan dengan seksama ya, untuk beberapa poin yang mungkin bisa saya pahami.
Now, we just heard Perseverance team leaders thank the cruise team for their work in guiding the rover to Mars. Now, did you know the rover name and Mars helicopter name came from students? Well, a couple weeks ago, Marina was able to catch up with them.
Thanks, Raquel. Earlier this year, NASA and our partners held a nationwide essay contest to name our Mars rover. Alex Mather, a 7th grader from Springfield, Virginia, submitted the winning essay that was selected by NASA from a field of more than 28,000 entries from K through 12 students in every state in the U.S. Vanessa Rupani's essay for Ingenuity was so compelling, NASA thought it would be a perfect name for the history-making helicopter, a technology demonstration carried aboard the Perseverance rover. Alex and Vanessa join us now. Welcome, you guys.
Hello, space nerds.
Hi.
Now, you got to go to Florida and watch the launch live back in July. Alex, what were you feeling as you saw that rocket launch into the sky?
I read a lot of books written by astronauts, and every single one of them always talks about the raw power behind the space launch. And I definitely feel like watching the launch invoked that sense of inspiration mixed with anticipation, along with that rumbling in my chest.
That's very inspirational, and I'm sure that you have had many conversations with your classmates since this all began. Now, what kind of questions have they asked you?
I got some people asking me about what this helicopter is, what this rover is, what are they actually going to do. So I love that this whole experience sparked a greater interest in the mission in my community.
Why do you think it's so important for kids to be inspired by space exploration?
Because space is the future, and kids are the future. Learning about space and watching the story of humanity spread to the stars happen is watching the future happen and seeing history unfold.
The best way to keep our home safe and protect our planet is to learn from the worlds around it. So I think it's really important for the next generation of scientists to be engaged in that type of exploration to make our home the best place it can be.
Now, speaking of the future, what has your life been like since naming the rover and helicopter? Has it sparked any future aspirations for the two of you?
Oh man, I am currently applying to a science and technology school for high school. I'm hoping for a NASA internship sometime along the way, with my ultimate goal being to join the incredible team of scientists and engineers who are about to make this happen.
This whole experience has definitely shown me that I want to go into the space industry. I came home from Florida, did all my college applications, and checked aerospace engineering on all the boxes. I mean, the whole time we were there, I was thinking, why would anyone want to do anything else?
So true, and the best of luck to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Alex and Vanessa.
Thank you for having us.
Oke, halo semuanya. Jadi saya mendapatkan beberapa data update untuk estimasinya ya. Jadi nanti pada pukul 3.38, pesawat luar angkasa yang telah terbang ke Mars akan melepaskan kapsul yang berisi Perseverance ke atmosfer Mars. Dan untuk memasuki atmosfernya pada 3.38 ya. Dan pada waktu itu saat mencapai puncak atmosfer Mars, roket akan mencapai dengan kecepatan 12.000 mil per jam ya. Kemudian untuk estimasi touchdown, di sini sudah saya dapatkan pukul 3.55. Jadi jam 4 kurang 5 menit ya untuk touchdown-nya. Jadi nanti jetpack-nya akan menurunkan rover dengan tali nilon setinggi 25 kaki sampai roda dari Perseverance menyentuh permukaan Mars. Pukul 3.55 untuk estimasi landingnya Perseverance ke permukaan Mars. Jadi untuk sekarang kurang sekitar 30 menitan. 30 menit menuju touchdown Perseverance ke permukaan Mars. Untuk data update-nya akan selalu saya perbarui. Karena ini masih data estimasi ya. Tapi juga berdasarkan perhitungan, jadi kurang lebihnya nggak akan terpaut cukup lama waktunya nanti. Semoga dengan touchdown nanti bisa berjalan sesuai rencana agar Perseverance bisa menjalankan tugasnya sesuai dengan apa yang sudah direncanakan. Oke, kita lanjut ke NASA sembari saya mencari update lagi mengenai perkembangan misi Perseverance.
Same reason that many others are excited about space, and it's that the people in the space industry work to answer two of the biggest questions that humans have ever asked. Are we alone in the universe, and where did we all come from? And by sending a rover to Mars, we are gaining evidence for the answers to these questions, more evidence than we ever had before, and I think that's so exciting.
It is, and I know you get loads of interesting questions from kids. Have you gotten any about Mars specifically?
Oh my gosh, yes. Everybody loves Mars. It's in movies and books and TV shows, and everybody loves Mars. So one of the things that I get asked a lot is that, it's called the red planet. Why is it red? Well, it's red because it's literally rusty. The top layer of soil on Mars has iron oxide in it, or rust, and rust has that brownish red color. So it's red because it's rusty. And also because it's red, they ask, is it red hot? Is it really hot on Mars? And well, no, actually, it's colder than the Earth. It's farther away from the sun. So as you would imagine, it's a little bit colder than the Earth. It also has a really thin atmosphere. So the heat that it does have, it has a hard time keeping in. And so it's a little bit colder. But then I also get asked, what would I weigh on Mars? That's a really fun question. So on Mars, it's a little bit smaller than the Earth, so the gravity there is weaker. It's about 3/8 the gravity that we have here on Earth. So if you weighed 100 pounds here on Earth, you'd weigh 38 pounds on Mars, or 100 kilograms here on Earth, 38 kilograms on Mars.
Those are all super fun. I think even some adults want to know the answers to those questions, Emily. Now, why do you think it's so important to educate kids about science and give them that great foundation?
Well, science is the language of nature, and learning about science and learning how to think like a scientist means you are learning how to systematically seek out truth in the world. You are learning the scientific method, you're learning how to be a critical thinker, and honestly, those skills are great for whatever you end up wanting to do in life.
True. If you want to be a scientist or an opera singer, that holds true. And what are you most excited about today?
I mean, humans are launching a robot to Mars. That doesn't happen every day. I think in all of the hecticness that is going on today and all of the nerves, I just hope everyone can take a moment to sit back and remember that we live in a time when humans have the ability to send a robot to another planet. And that's so cool to me.
It is very cool, Emily. Take a deep breath. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
Sending it back to you now, Raquel.
Thanks, Marina. We are offering lots of ways to ride along with us to Mars. Now put yourself right into the action now with our Perseverance photo booth. You can pose next to the rover, place yourself in our mission control, and even see what you might look like taking a selfie on the red planet. There, you'll also have a chance to sign up to send your name to Mars on NASA's next flight to the red planet. It's all available at go.nasa.gov/Mars 2020 Toolkit. And joining us now is JPL Chief Engineer and Landing Veteran Rob Manning. He will be breaking down key moments coming up, and very few people know more about landing on Mars than Rob, going back to the Pathfinder mission in 1997. Thanks for joining us today, Rob.
Thank you very much, Raquel, for having me here. And what a wonderful experience. What a wonderful day for a beautiful day in California. We're just also excited here, anxious, worried, but very hopeful.
Rob, I have a question for you. There is a landing tradition at JPL that involves eating peanuts for good luck. Can you tell us how did that start?
Yes, it started in the mid-1960s. What happened was we had a series of missions that had failures. The Ranger program in the early 1960s, one after another, failed. And what happened was one day a fellow by the name of Dick Wallace on Ranger number 7, on the 7th attempt, decided to bring peanuts to the ops area just before the launch, and guess what? That mission worked. Now, we're not supposed to be too superstitious. We're engineers and scientists after all, but we love tradition. And ever since then, before launch and before critical events like enter-descent landing, we have brought out peanuts and shared them with the team. And it's been really a wonderful little experience. And so this is something we'll do. We're doing right now, and it's something that we just can't help ourselves. It's just part of the experience.
Well, speaking of the experience, how did the Perseverance team keep the tradition alive this year?
Well, this year we're passed out little packets of peanuts to the team, and they can sneak one peanut in their mouth as part of to keep the tradition alive. But this is part of the COVID experience, but we can't leave this one undone. So this is what we're doing, and this is going to help us land safely.
All right, thanks, Rob. I have some questions for you a little later on, but we're heading back to Swati Mohan, who is part of the landing team. She'll be calling out key milestone and events as they happen from Mission Control. So let's listen in right now.
So right now we're still about 20 minutes from entry, and the EL phase is giving a last-minute confirmation of what will be happening in the upcoming changes to the vehicle, just to remind the team.
This will allow us to steer our trajectory as we make our way through the atmosphere. This is one of the things that allowed MSL, the Curiosity rover, to land where it did. And we're depending on the same type of entry guidance this time around to help get us very close to our target. As we make our way through entry, finish our guided entry profile, we'll do a maneuver called heading alignment, where we point toward the target and get ready to deploy the parachute. But before we deploy the parachute,
Oke, menurut estimasi dari mission control, jadi sekitar 10 menit lagi pesawat luar angkasa yang membawa Perseverance akan segera melepaskan Perseverance ke atmosfer Mars. Jadi sekitar 10 menit lagi, roket yang membawa Perseverance akan segera melepaskan Perseverance menuju ke atmosfer Mars. Dan 10 menit selanjutnya, Perseverance akan mencapai puncak atmosfer Mars dengan kecepatan 12.100 mil per jam. Jadi beberapa menit lagi, roket yang membawa Perseverance akan segera menuju ke atmosfer Mars. Jadi kita simak kembali bagaimana progres perjalanan selanjutnya. Kita kembalikan lagi siaran langsungnya ke NASA.
Copy phase 2. And activity, please call that out when it's ready. Copy flight.
Make the announcement now. Okay. Not using the announcement, but
all right. Now, Rob, you've been right where the Perseverance team is sitting now. What's in store for them as we approach landing?
Well, this is the nail-biting time. Fortunately, we still have ones and zeros coming, but very soon, as we approach cruise stage separation, the transmitter on this rover we've been using all the way to get to Mars is going to be turned off. So we will lose our ability to see ones and zeros. But the good thing is, once the cruise stage is gone, there's another radio that will continue transmitting a tone, so that like a flashlight, that will allow us to at least see that the vehicle is still on, and that color of that flashlight tells us a little bit what state the rover's in. But soon after that, it won't be very long before we'll be able to hear more ones and zeros coming from the spacecraft. So this is a really exciting time, and it's just important to remind people there's a lot that can go wrong in a day like today. There are thousands of things that have to go right.
Yeah, we had success in the past landing on Mars. You'd think it gets easier, but it really doesn't. Why is it still so difficult?
Well, because it's involved thousands and thousands of things, hundreds of thousands of lines of code.
Oke, bisa kalian lihat sendiri di live mission control, memang sudah mulai memasuki wilayah dari atmosfer Mars. Jadi kurang lebih sekitar 7 menit lagi, atau bahkan lebih, sekitar 8 menit. Roket yang membawa Perseverance akan memasuki wilayah atmosfer Mars dan melepaskan wahana Perseverance masuk ke wilayah planet Mars. Dan 10 menit selanjutnya, Perseverance akan mencapai puncak atmosfer Mars dengan kecepatan 12.100 mil per jam. Jadi sekali lagi saya sampaikan, beberapa menit lagi, kapsul atau roket yang membawa Perseverance akan segera memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. Dan dilanjutkan 10 menit selanjutnya, kapsul akan mencapai puncak atmosfer Mars dengan kecepatan 12.100 mil per jam. Kemudian pada jam 3 lebih 49, frikton dari kecepatan tinggi kapsul akan memanaskan bahan di sekitarnya hingga sekitar 2370 derajat Fahrenheit. Tapi tentunya ada pelindung panas ya, yang melindungi wahana Perseverance di dalam dan tetap dalam suhu yang aman. Kemudian penurunan parasut akan dilakukan pada pukul 3:52. Nantinya kapsul akan menggunakan parasut selebar 70 kaki dan memperlambat jatuhnya Perseverance menjadi sekitar 150 mil per jam. Nah, itu secepat penerjun payung yang jatuh ke bumi tanpa parasut. Jadi bayangin aja ya. Kemudian secara bertahap akan memulai pemisahan dari kapsul pada pukul 3:54 dan sekitar 1 mil di atas permukaan Mars. Kapsul baru akan menjatuhkan Perseverance yang dilengkapi jetpack di punggungnya. Nah, sebelum mencapai permukaan, tentunya mesin jetpack akan menyala dan menerbangkan Perseverance ke tempat pendaratannya. Dan estimasi touchdown atau mulai menyentuh permukaan akan terjadi pada jam 3:55 atau jam 4:05 menit. Jetpack akan menurunkan rover Perseverance dengan tali nilon setinggi 25 kaki sampai roda dari Perseverance menyentuh tanah. Sekarang kita saksikan bagaimana Perseverance akan segera memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. Kita sambung ke NASA kembali.
Currently preparing the heat rejection system that has kept the thermal system cool inside the air shell for about the last 6 months. This will allow the spacecraft to more easily cut the line in upcoming cruise stage separation, which is under 4 minutes now.
Ini adalah detik-detik roket mencapai mencapai atmosfer. Tapi jangan berekspektasi untuk menampilkan bagaimana tampilan Mars secara langsung ya, karena ini adalah live mission control. Jadi kita akan mendapatkan update dari mission control juga. Untuk tampilan yang kalian lihat tadi adalah animasi CGI untuk memperjelas bagaimana pendaratan atau menuju ke atmosfer Mars. Kalau kalian mau lihat dan mengontrol secara langsung, kalian bisa langsung klik link yang sudah disediakan di live chat, sudah dipin sama moderator. Kalian tinggal klik dan bisa menyaksikan secara langsung update secara langsung dari kapsul yang membawa Perseverance. Jadi 3 menit lagi, kapsul akan menyentuh atmosfer Mars. Info yang saya dapatkan 3 menit lagi. Kemudian akan disusul 10 menit kemudian, kapsul akan mulai mencapai puncak atmosfer Mars dengan kecepatan 12.100 mil per jam. Jadi ini adalah detik-detik bagaimana kapsul yang membawa Perseverance memasuki atmosfer Mars. Semoga berjalan lancar tanpa adanya kendala. Oke, banyak yang tanya tentang CGI yang ditampilkan di sini. Kenapa? Ya, jadi ini bukan berarti kita membodohi masyarakat ya, bukan. Karena ini adalah masalah bagaimana mengirimkan data video. Terlalu jauh, bisa dilihat sendiri jaraknya juga nggak deket ya. Jadi untuk gambar CGI yang kalian lihat ini adalah gambaran ilustrasi berdasarkan dengan data yang diperoleh oleh NASA dari update Perseverance secara langsung.
Once it gets pushed away, the entry system with the rover inside, with the rover still in charge, is going to get ready to
Jadi kurang sekitar 2 menit lagi, kapsul akan mulai mencapai wilayah atmosfer Mars. Kita tunggu bagaimana detik-detik meluncur melewati atmosfer. Kita kembalikan ke NASA terlebih dahulu.
Be prepared for this event taking
about 1.5 minutes from cruise stage separation. About 11 minutes, 20 seconds from entry interface.
Okay, so it's about 10 minutes from cruise stage separation till entering the top of the atmosphere. From then on and out, things happen fast.
Switching to MFSK tones. Telemetry will have stopped.
Telecom is confirming that the spacecraft has switched to broadcasting tones. These tones are received directly from Perseverance, but have very limited information content. We won't receive real-time information until about
Jadi untuk adanya update mungkin visualisasi asli dari Mars nanti yang diperoleh, kemungkinan akan ada delay sekitar 11 menit karena jarak antara Bumi dan Mars ya. Pengiriman data berlangsung selama 11 menit. Oke, kita lanjut karena sudah mulai memasukin ya. Pukul 3.38. Menurut estimasinya sudah sampai di atmosfer Mars dan akan disusul dengan pelepasan Perseverance menuju puncak atmosfer. Kita tunggu detik-detik memasuki atmosfer. Ini adalah gambaran atau ilustrasi bagaimana kapsul yang membawa Perseverance sudah mulai memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. Kita kembalikan ke NASA untuk pengalaman yang lebih baik menontonnya.
We have indication that cruise stage separation has been confirmed by the spacecraft.
We're off on a good start.
In about 1 minute, Perseverance's landing software will wake up and begin the final preparations for entry. The first action it will do is to fire one.
Sekali lagi saya ingatkan visualisasi yang memperlihatkan bagaimana kapsul memasuki atmosfer tadi adalah ilustrasi.
9 minutes from entry interface.
Untuk memberikan informasi yang lebih jelas bagaimana keadaan Perseverance. Jadi kita sedang menantikan kapsul yang sudah mulai memasuki atmosfer Mars ya, dan akan melepaskan. Nah ini tampilan untuk animasinya, untuk memperjelas informasi, sudah kalian lihat sendiri. Sudah mulai memasuki wilayah atmosfer ya. Kita kembalikan dulu ke NASA.
As it passed through our beam to the Earth.
Telecom indicated actually that we could see a signal that the cruise stage went between the Perseverance entry capsule and Earth. So we saw a little blip, the data stream indicating the cruise stage separation. We have confirmation that the vehicle has started warming up those entry thrusters. Warm-up pulses have begun.
Oke, bisa kalian lihat sendiri di pojok kanan kalau dari sini, kalau kalian mungkin pojok kiri, bawah, ada keterangan waktu memasuki atmosfer 8 menit lagi. Jadi lumayan jauh ya dari data estimasi tadi. Touchdown dalam 15 menit lagi. Jadi jangan lewatkan momen bersejarah ini. 15 menit lagi kita bisa merasakan secara langsung bagaimana objek dari bumi mendarat di planet Mars. Dan mungkin akan memberikan gambaran secara langsung planet Mars pada sekitar 15 menit lagi. Untuk live chatnya dimatikan dulu agar kalian bisa fokus ke pendaratan atau landing dari Perseverance menuju Mars. Memasuki atmosfer sudah 7 menit 30 detikan. Kita masih menunggu update selanjutnya ya. Dilihat mission control yang terus melihat keadaan Perseverance. Semoga berjalan dengan sukses karena ini misi yang sangat-sangat bagus, terutama pada peluncuran Ingenuity atau sebuah drone ya, helikopter mini yang akan memantau Mars di ketinggian. Itu merupakan sebuah misi yang sangat-sangat bersejarah karena manusia akan bisa menerbangkan benda buatan di luar planet Bumi. Oke, kita lihat kembali bagaimana gambaran dari Perseverance yang masih dalam kapsul memasuki atmosfer. Saya tekankan kembali lagi, ini adalah ilustrasi. Sedangkan beberapa orang yang sedang mengontrol ini adalah rekaman asli dari NASA ya. Semua tim dari misi Perseverance sedang bisa dikatakan berhati-hati untuk mengontrol bagaimana Perseverance memasuki atmosfer planet Mars agar tetap bisa berjalan dengan aman sesuai dengan rencana. Saya juga masih menunggu, saya cukup antusias ya pada misi kali ini mungkin kalian juga ada yang sama seperti saya. Saya sangat menunggu misi kali ini karena ini ada beberapa instrumen yang bagus dari festival ini, terutama pada pengumpulan sampel. Dan yang paling saya tunggu adalah bagaimana nanti penampakan Mars yang diambil dengan wahana Unity di ketinggian menggunakan helikopter mini yang terpasang di Perseverance. Sekitar 5,5 menit lagi ya, memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. Di sini, di rumah admin, sekarang sudah menunjukkan jam 3:43 pagi. Sebentar lagi sudah memasuki subuh, dan kita masih belum bisa menyaksikan Perseverance memasuki atau mendarat di permukaan Mars. Kita tunggu bersama-sama bagaimana update selanjutnya. Kita kembalikan lagi ke NASA terlebih dahulu.
All the way down to Earth. Once the temperature drops below that peak heating, we do reacquire the signal from Perseverance. We are currently about 4.5 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance continues to report heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal.
Okay, what we're looking for now is Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should be in view soon of our vehicle and be able to listen to ones and zeros coming from a separate radio.
Bisa kita lihat sendiri juga ya, para tim misi dari Perseverance dengan memperlihatkan muka serius dan tegang, karena proses landing ini tentu saja tidak mudah ya, karena ini sudah di luar bumi kendalinya. Sama seperti beberapa misi sebelumnya. Semoga berhasil landing dengan selamat. Sekarang masih berusaha untuk memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. 4 menit lagi. Diperkirakan sudah memasuki atmosfer Mars. Buat yang nonton, semoga masih betah ya, karena sekitar 12 menit lagi akan mulai touchdown atau mendarat di permukaan Mars. Kita lihat beberapa tim dari misi Perseverance sedang benar-benar serius untuk mengontrol Perseverance agar bisa sesuai dengan rencana misi yang sudah dijalankan oleh NASA. Saya ucapkan terima kasih buat yang sekarang hadir menyaksikan misi bersejarah kali ini. Dan saya sangat mengapresiasi kalian buat yang nonton melalui channel Nasi. Saya sangat mengapresiasi kalian karena di sini kita bisa berkumpul bersama sambil saya menyampaikan informasi yang saya tangkap sebisa mungkin dengan bahasa yang bisa kalian mengerti. Sekitar 3 menit lagi. Buat yang bergabung bisa share live kali ini biar orang Indonesia tahu semuanya, biar tidak ketinggalan info mengenai misi bersejarah ini. Bisa dibantu share, karena misi bersejarah ini sangat sayang untuk dilewatkan ya. Ini mungkin bisa menjadi awal dengan misi-misi selanjutnya lebih hebat lagi. Saya sekarang masih semangat karena saya sangat antusias dengan misi wahana penjelajah kali ini. Dan semoga kalian juga merasakan hal yang sama seperti saya, masih bersemangat di hari yang masih sangat-sangat pagi ini. Kita masih menunggu bagaimana keadaan Perseverance memasuki atmosfer Mars. Jadi sudah berlangsung 2 menitan, kita akan segera menyaksikan Perseverance memasuki atmosfer dari planet Mars. Kita kembalikan sebentar ke NASA agar kalian juga bisa mengikuti perkembangannya langsung.
90 seconds from entry interface and standing by for Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to pick up the telemetry.
Oke, 1 menit lagi. Ini cukup tegang ya, karena masuk atmosfer ini sebuah tantangan besar juga ya. Semoga dalam tahap ini Perseverance bisa melewati semua tantangan atau tekanan atmosfer dari Mars dengan selamat dan mendarat dengan aman. 1 menit. Come on, Perseverance. Come on.
MROs are in receive mode.
We have confirmation that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is now relaying data from Perseverance. We're about 30 seconds from entry interface. Perseverance is going about 5.2 kilometers per second and is about 190 kilometers altitude above the surface of Mars.
Confirm your jet data flow.
About seconds from entry interface. 5.3 kilometers per second and an altitude of about 150 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation of entry interface. Perseverance is currently going 5.3 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 120 kilometers from the surface of Mars. The spacecraft is now waiting until it begins feeling the atmosphere of Mars slow it down. Once there is enough atmosphere, it will start controlling its path to the landing target.
Untuk mencari tanda kehidupan. Sudah mulai memasuki ya.
Navigation is also confirming that we can see a little bit of that slowdown of the atmosphere on the Perseverance entry capsule.
Sudah mulai memasuki
Our current velocity is about
atmosfer dari Mars. Kita lihat wajah-wajah tegang dari tim misi kontrol dari Perseverance.
We are probably seeing MRO plasma blackout at this point.
Ini adalah data, terlihat sudah ditandai ya, ini ilustrasi ya. Tapi itu adalah tempat di mana Perseverance akan menjelajahi Mars nanti di Kawah Jezero. Kita masih tunggu update selanjutnya. Saya seperti komentator bola ini ya.
We have indications that Perseverance is now performing bank reversals in the atmosphere. These are the steps in order to control its distance to the landing target. Perseverance has just passed through the point of maximum deceleration and has indicated that it felt approximately 10
Sekali lagi ini adalah ilustrasi untuk memperjelas informasi yang disampaikan. Karena memang tidak memungkinkan untuk mengambil secara langsung video landing dari Perseverance. Fakta menariknya, Perseverance akan menjadi wahana ketiga yang sampai di Mars setelah kemarin Hope dari Uni Emirat Arab dan Tianwen 1 dari China. Sebentar lagi, ini sudah mulai memasuki ya. Beberapa menit lagi akan segera melepaskan Perseverance untuk kemudian landing ke permukaan Mars.
Which means Perseverance is no longer trying to control the distance to Mars, to the target on Mars, but instead is flying straight to the target.
Terlihat semakin turun ya kecepatannya ya. Kita masih juga melihat bagaimana tim dari misi Control Live Perseverance ini memantau juga perkembangan. Jadi bukan cuman kita aja yang deg-degan ya, tapi semua tim dari misi kontrol dari Perseverance juga mengalami hal yang sama, malah lebih deg-degan daripada kita. Ini merupakan tampilan ilustrasi. Saya jelaskan berkali-kali agar tidak ada kesalahpahaman dari kita semua.
MRO's reporting good telemetry log.
Kita masih menantikan ya untuk melepaskan Perseverance dari kapsul yang akan melesat kemudian. Sekarang sudah menunjukkan pukul 3, 5, 2. Jadi oke. Terlihat sudah berhasil ya untuk memasuki. Lihat bagaimana tim merayakan kegembiraan mereka setelah melewati atmosfer dari planet Mars. Sudah mulai melepaskan parasut ya. Wow, lebih cepat dari yang saya bayangkan ternyata. Nah, ini parasutnya selebar 70 kaki ya, dan akan memperlambat jatuhnya kapsul ini sekitar 150 mil per jam. Jadi ini sudah mulai melepaskan parasut ya, yang akan memperlambat jatuhnya dari Perseverance sebelum benar-benar touchdown. Kurang beberapa menit saja, sekitar ya 2 menit lagi kita akan menyaksikan landingnya Perseverance menuju planet Mars. Oke, saya juga cukup antusias dengan pendaratan kali ini. Terima kasih yang sudah hadir. Saya harap kalian juga mempunyai perasaan yang sama. Oke, kita lihat sudah mulai rendah ya.
Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second.
Sebentar lagi akan dilepaskan menggunakan jetpack yang akan menyala dan menerbangkan Perseverance ke tempat pendaratannya. Dan touchdown sekitar 1 menit lagi, Perseverance akan landing di permukaan Mars, di Kawah Jezero tepatnya. Wow, mantap ya. Saya merasakan kegembiraan dari tim mesin juga. Kita lihat sudah mulai memasuki. Ini sudah, wow, sudah dengan jetpacknya ternyata. Jam 1 menit lagi nanti akan dilepaskan dengan tali nilon setinggi 25 kaki sampai roda dari Perseverance menyentuh tanah Mars. Untuk ilustrasinya sudah memperlihatkan bagaimana diterbangkan dengan jetpack ya untuk Perseverance-nya sebelum nanti dilepaskan dengan tali nilon setinggi 25 kaki sampai rodanya menyentuh permukaan Mars. Kita lihat tim dari misi Perseverance sedang mengontrol misinya ya.
We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
We've lost direct to Earth tones.
As expected. As expected.
Oh, sudah dilepaskan dengan tali nilon setinggi 12 kakinya ya.
About 20 meters off the surface.
Inilah yang tunggu-tunggu. Landing, touchdown bro. Touchdown. Dan apakah berhasil? Bentar, saya belum antusias dulu. Oke. Berhasil? Berhasil? Apakah aman? Yes! Woohoo! Akhirnya, mantap. Selamat atas keberhasilan Perseverance menyampai permukaan Mars. Ini merupakan misi bersejarah pendaratan Mars oleh Perseverance. Kebahagiaan terlihat dari semua kru dari misi tim Perseverance. Terima kasih atas kerjasamanya. Saya juga turut antusias. Sangat luar biasa Perseverance dengan perjalanan yang sudah kita ikuti sejak awal live tadi. Perseverance akhirnya sudah touchdown atau memasuki dan mendarat di permukaan Mars. Mantap, alhamdulillah ya, alhamdulillah, mantap jiwa. Akhirnya setelah sekitar hampir 2 jam kita menunggu, akhirnya sudah landing di Mars dengan selamat. Jam 3 pukul 3:55 benar-benar sudah touchdown dan menyentuh permukaan Mars di Perseverance. Kita patut apresiasi bersama. Saya juga turut bahagia ya menyaksikan keberhasilan NASA, karena ini merupakan misi yang bersejarah bagi seluruh umat manusia, bukan cuma NASA ya. Kita menunggu update selanjutnya.
Perseverance is alive on the surface of Mars.
Oke. Kita menunggu update selanjutnya. Apakah akan menampilkan visualisasi dari Mars? Akan sangat lebih menarik ya. Kita tunggu bersama-sama. Keren. Saya harap kalian juga merasakan hal yang sama seperti yang saya rasakan. Saya sampai lupa minum kopi tadi ya, saking bagiannya. Jadinya Oke, jadi sudah dipotong oleh reporter ya. Kita kira sudah berakhir. Masih merayakan kebahagiaannya NASA. Saya juga bahagia. Kita lihat. Oh, ini sudah menampilkan gambaran langsung dari Mars. Kita belum mendapatkan visualisasinya. Itu foto dari Mars atau gimana ya? Kita ikuti terlebih dahulu. Berhasil, bro. Kita belum dapat jelas ya itu gambarnya karena delay 11 menit tadi ya. Itu ada foto Kawah Jezero, coy. Jelas banget itu. Wow. Keren. Kita tunggu apakah kita dapat gambaran yang lebih jelas. Karena di sini kita cuman belum melihat secara jelas, hanya melihat tim dari misi. Wow, ini permukaan Mars ya. Wow, langsung permukaan jelas sekali, bro. Langsung. Cuman ya hitam putih ya. Ya ampun. Kita dapatkan gambaran dari Mars langsung ya. Hasil ditangkap langsung oleh Perseverance dari pendaratannya sudah langsung memberikan gambaran yang sangat jelas dari Mars, permukaan Mars, tepatnya di Kawah Jezero. Ini adalah tempat yang akan dijelajahi oleh Mars nanti. Saya cukup antusias. Jadi wilayah tersebut akan dijelajahi oleh Perseverance, yaitu Kawah Jezero.
NASA works, and when we put our arms together and our hands together and our brains together, we can succeed.
Mohon maaf atas putusnya sambungan.
On all of the problems we have, we need to work together to do these kinds of things and make success happen.
Nanti akan saya tampilkan highlight-nya untuk detik-detik pendaratannya. Berhasil.
Joining us now is the acting administrator of NASA, Steve Jurisic. Steve, welcome and congratulations.
Hey, thank you. What an amazing day.
How does it feel to have another rover on Mars?
It's
Oke, kita kembalikan ke NASA.
To have Perseverance join Curiosity on Mars, and what just a credit to the team. I mean, just what an amazing team to work through all the adversity that goes and all the challenges that go with landing a rover on Mars, plus the challenges of COVID, and just an amazing accomplishment.
And what does this mean for NASA and its future plans?
So for robotic exploration, every time we execute a mission with new instruments, we discover new things and things we never thought we would discover. So that always informs our future robotic missions, both landers, rovers, and orbiters. This mission also has technology on it. One of the cool things is the Ingenuity helicopter. It's an experiment on this mission, but if it's successful, we can use it as an science observation platform by putting instruments on it, and also use it as a scout for future rover missions, and then just the entry, set, and landing capability. It'll allow us to land more larger, more ambitious.
Buat yang baru gabung, Perseverance sudah berhasil mendarat di Kawah Jezero tadi ya, dan memberikan visualisasi langsung setelah mendarat, dan luar biasa tadi. Nanti akan saya tampilkan highlight-nya pagi. Sekitar jam 8 akan ada highlight-nya, jadi tunggu aja videonya. Akan saya tampilkan detik-detik wahana dari NASA mencapai Mars. Perseverance.
This is just an incredible mission because of the science and the technology, and then caching samples for a Mars sample return mission. That will be an amazing mission, the first round trip to Mars and back, and bringing those samples cached by Perseverance back to Earth to examine with state-of-the-art equipment in our laboratories here on Earth.
We have so much to look forward to. And we also have a student question coming in from Landon. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Landon Applegate. I'm in 6th grade and I'm going to Academy for Academic Excellence. And my question is, do you think we could get resources from Mars to help on future missions or even as like a launching point?
Great question, Landon. Actually, we have an experiment called the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, or MOXIE, and it's going to demonstrate generating oxygen from atmospheric CO2, and that could help generate breathable oxygen, and even if we can liquefy it, oxidizer for propulsion systems. So that's a tech demo on Perseverance. And then we're going to continue to characterize the frozen water on and below the surface of Mars, and eventually try to figure out how to extract that water from the Martian soil, or what we call.
Halo semuanya. Jadi update-nya saya infokan bahwa pukul 3:55 tadi atau jam 4:05 wahana Perseverance telah berhasil secara aman mendarat di Kawah Jezero Mars, sekaligus memberikan visualisasi langsung foto permukaan Mars secara langsung yang sangat indah. Dan jangan lupa nanti akan kita tampilkan highlight-nya. Jadi kita tampilkan detik-detik sebelum wahana Perseverance mendarat di Mars. Buat yang baru gabung, saya infokan bahwa wahana Perseverance sudah berhasil mendarat secara aman di Kawah Jezero pukul 3:55 atau jam 4:05 waktu Indonesia Barat. Jangan khawatir buat yang ketinggalan live, karena nanti bakal kita upload untuk detik-detik dan juga full dari seluruh program misi Perseverance mendarat di Mars kali ini. Jangan lupa nanti saksikan highlight-nya. Kita upload secepatnya. Sekarang kita mau lanjut dulu ke live NASA. Buat yang baru gabung, sekali lagi saya infokan bahwa Perseverance sudah berhasil landing dengan aman di Kawah Jezero Mars. Sekian yang bisa saya sampaikan pada live update kali ini. Kita kembalikan ke NASA sampai kita mendapatkan informasi terbaru. Kita putar dulu live dari NASA.
And some late nights, but we're also excited, and we can't wait.
It's a whole new lifestyle.
Yes.
We also have a student question for you. This is Sophia's video.
Hi, my name is Sofia Lopez, and my question for NASA is, how's Perseverance gonna survive? And here's a drawing that I made from Perseverance thinking about Earth. Thank you.
Well, Sophia, Perseverance survives with a power source that charges its batteries overnight while it sleeps, and it keeps heaters on so that all of our critical electronics can stay warm, as well as our mechanism. But it's really survived by the team that performs the health and safety assessments every day and communicates with the rover and makes sure that she's doing okay.
Well, thanks for your time, Jessica, and good luck living on Mars time.
Thank you. Should be fun.
Let's head back to Marina as she gives us a sneak peek into the future at JPL.
Thanks so much, Raquel. It's definitely bustling behind me. It's not quiet like it was just 20 minutes ago. And congrats to the whole team. What an amazing accomplishment. Mike Watkins is the director of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was the mission manager during the Curiosity rover landing on Mars. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here.
You can see all my mask markings on.
Well, you were just celebrating, and rightly so. Now, you've been around for a number of Mars landings. What makes this one special?
Well, you know, two things. I mean, it's the biggest and best rover we've ever sent to Mars, and it can really, you know, do amazing things in terms of, you know, its own scientific exploration of this habitable environment, you know, at Jezero. But, you know, it's also, as you've heard today, you know, it's the first step in Mars sample return. So really, you know, it's not only doing its own mission, it's setting us up for a series of missions and to bring those samples back. And, you know, a lot of the effort to develop the rover was specifically designed, you know, for that sampling and caching system. It's one of the most complex robotic systems ever made. And, you know, having it down safely means Mars sample return continues right on course, and we are moving forward.
Wonderful. Now, JPL has a long history with robotic space exploration. Why do you think it's so important to continue to push those boundaries?
You know, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, you know, for places that are far away, like Mars, and even farther away, you know, like Europa, right now, robotic exploration is the only way we can make those scientific discoveries and really understand these early habitable environments. In the case of Europa, maybe it's even still habitable. And, you know, we're not ready to go there with astronauts yet, but the robots are ready to go there. And so we always, you know, are forerunners and pathfinders of human exploration. And we start by sending, you know, our eyes and arms there in the form of a robot. And it is just fantastic to be able to do that and to learn from each rover, learn from the science and the engineering, and make the next one better and make more and more discoveries. And every time we do one of these missions, we make fabulous discoveries. And you know, each one is more exciting than the last.
The future does look exciting. Now, as director of JPL, what would you like to say to those teams right now celebrating?
Oh, you know, obviously they have earned it. Let me tell you. I mean, they have worked, you know, for years and years on this mission. And then in the past year, of course, we had the COVID experience. And you know, I want to thank not only the team, but also, you know, all of JPL. You know, a lot of folks had to pitch in here, you know, in terms of making sure our remote telework, you know, our IT systems were good enough to support folks working from home. You know, all of the folks looking at PPE and our safe distancing and reconfiguring facilities to make them safe for the employees. It's just an incredible amount of work by the entire lab, and of course, especially by this team. And you know, and in one sense, you know, the 7 minutes of terror are very exciting. But on the other hand, you know, the mission's just started, right? We built the mission, you know, not to land, but actually to drive and get the samples and do other technology, you know, demonstrations. And so, you know, for much of the team, you know, this part of the mission's over, but for most of the team, the mission's really just starting. And so, you know, I think they're very excited, but, you know, everybody, I think, can take a deep breath and a sigh of relief now that we are safely down on the surface.
Yes, that collective sigh of relief, and I hear a lot of excitement and celebration behind me as well. So thanks so much for joining me, Mike.
It's my pleasure, and thanks to everyone for joining us, too.
Congrats again to the Mars 2020 Perseverance team for a successful landing. Back to you, Raquel.
Now, there will be a flight test coming up for the Ingenuity Mars helicopter, and if this technology experiment is successful, it would mark the first time we have taken a power-controlled flight on another planet.
Sometimes you have to do something just to show that you can do it. When the Wright brothers flew for the first time, they flew an experimental aircraft. And in the same way, the Mars helicopter is designed to show that we can fly powered helicopter flight in the Martian atmosphere.
From day one, this was the unwavering dream of our team, to get our helicopter launched to Mars so that we can get that opportunity to do that very first rotorcraft flight test in the actual environment of Mars. It's extremely difficult to fly at Mars because the atmosphere is so thin. Compared to Earth, at Mars it's less than 1%. So the first and foremost challenge is to make a vehicle that's light enough to be lifted. And then the second is to generate lift. The rotor system has just been very fast. 2,000, 2,200, 2,400, 2,600. We're spinning between 2,000 and 3,000 revolutions per minute, and it takes a lot of energy. So it's that balance of a very light system, yet having enough energy that's needed to, you know, spin the rotor so fast to lift, and on top of it, having to design in the autonomy
It has to be fully autonomous from the time it takes off to the time it lands. What we do on the ground is we plan the flights, and so we determine from here where we want the helicopter to go.
Our experiment window is 30 Martian days. So we have planned up to 5 flights of incremental difficulty.
The very first flight, the main thing is we want to get the legs off the ground, and so we will basically go up about 3 meters, and we'll hover there, and then we'll come down again, and that will be the first, really major milestone.
Most of our flights will be at the 3 to 5 meter height. We will be going horizontally again at a few meters per second, probably go out, 50, 70 meters and come back. In successive flights, we'll probably push that further, try to go further. So our priority will be to get back engineering telemetry and not so much images, but I'm sure we'll return a few, because they'll always look cool.
At this point, we've tested all we can on Earth. We have mathematical models that shows how it will fly at Mars, and we've tested it in the simulated environment that we can create on Earth. It really is time now to do the real flight tests at Mars.
Nothing is a given, but we have done everything we can in terms of a test program here on Earth. The vehicle's performing extremely well so far. It's been doing exactly the right thing, even right now when it's bolted onto the Perseverance rover. So there's a very good chance that we'll pull it off, yes. But it's still high risk, and none of us forget that you could have a glitch that, could mean end of mission, yes.
It's going to be exciting, reacting to any surprises we have. We can't wait. What's really most important is everything we're learning here is for the future rotorcraft systems that we want to introduce into space exploration.
Mimi Ang is the project manager for Ingenuity. She joins us now as they await a chance to check out their helicopter in the coming days. Welcome, Mimi.
Thank you, Marina.
Oh my goodness, we've been talking about this for months, Mimi. Did you ever think you'd be here at this point? I mean, what's going on in your head right now?
This is super exciting. We have been working on Mars helicopter for over 6 years, testing and carefully designing it for operation at Mars. So what's going through my mind? Ingenuity Mars helicopter is finally at the destination that it is designed for.
Now that Ingenuity is on Mars, what is the timeline you hope to accomplish as you move forward?
We have a series of major milestones between now and Ingenuity's first flight. So tomorrow we'll turn on the helicopter and its base station to confirm health after experiencing the dynamics through the EDL just now. And the next major milestone will be when the rover deploys the helicopter to the surface. And that marks the first moment that Ingenuity operates on its own in a standalone manner. And surviving that first cold, frigid night of Mars will be a major milestone. We'll execute a series of checkouts, and then we will perform that very important first flight. And if the first flight is successful, we have up to 4 more flights in the 30 Martian days that we have set aside for our flight experiments.
And that's when you finally can breathe, right, Mimi? Yes. Now, why is it so important to have that aerial dimension to space exploration?
A helicopter flying far ahead of rovers and astronauts in the future can provide high-definition reconnaissance information for the rovers and the astronauts before they take the long journeys. And as importantly, being able to fly will enable us to get to places that we cannot get to with rovers and astronauts, like sites of steep cliffs, deep inside crevices, areas of high scientific interest. It will be game-changing.
Game-changing is right, and we've talked about this a lot. You've mentioned the risk is huge, Mimi, but the reward is high. What will be your greatest reward?
Our team started with the question of whether a helicopter can fly at Mars, given the extremely thin environment. And we systematically demonstrated a series of technical steps. We demonstrated lift first, and then we demonstrated lift and the first ever powered control rotorcraft flight in simulated Mars atmospheric density. And then we went on to build the full-up helicopter that can not only fly, but operate and survive autonomously at Mars, all under 1.8 kilograms, about 4 pounds. And each of these major milestones have been a first. And the success in each of these has been so rewarding. And along the way, the rewards just kept coming. And I have to tell you, at this moment, it's going up exponentially. So after all these
Halo semuanya, kembali lagi tersambung dengan saya. Buat yang nanya bagaimana status misi dari Perseverance, Perseverance sudah landing dengan selamat dan aman di Mars, tepatnya di Kawah Jezero pada jam 3:55 tadi atau jam 4:05 menit. Untuk saat ini mungkin bakal kita akhiri terlebih dahulu live kali ini, karena kita tadi sudah menyiarkan lengkap dari awal sampai landing ya. Terima kasih buat yang sudah hadir dan menyempatkan untuk nonton live kali ini. Terima kasih semuanya. Saya sangat respect banget buat yang sudah nonton live di channel Nasi apalagi. Dan kita turut bahagia ya dengan pendaratan Perseverance secara aman di Mars tadi, dengan sedikit ketegangan tadi saat memasuki atmosfer dan meluncur dengan mulus sampai menyentuh permukaan Mars dan memberikan foto asli dari planet Mars pertama dari si wahana Perseverance. Sekarang kita tinggal menantikan bagaimana misi ini akan berjalan dan update penemuan terbaru dari Perseverance yang memang misinya untuk menguak masa lalu dari Kawah Jezero yang diyakini oleh para ilmuwan menyimpan air pada zaman dahulu dan memiliki bentuk kehidupan. Jadi misi kali ini juga akan cukup menarik karena Perseverance tidak sendirian dalam menjalankan misinya kali ini. Perseverance ditemani oleh wahana helikopter mini bernama Ingenuity yang akan memantau Mars secara langsung dari atas. Jadi akan menerbangkan semacam drone untuk memantau Mars dari ketinggian. Semoga semuanya berjalan lancar. Dan saya ucapkan terima kasih buat yang sudah hadir. Maaf saya hanya bisa memantau beberapa scene atau beberapa scan tadi saat terutama detik-detik sebelum mendarat. Kita akhiri live kali ini dan sampai jumpa di live selanjutnya. Terima kasih semuanya dan selamat kepada seluruh kru tim dari Perseverance atas keberhasilannya mendaratkan wahana di Mars. Saya akhiri dan sampai jumpa di live selanjutnya.